Hi, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Xcession Everything Service Management ESM podcast with me, Daniel Gilby, and as always, my co-host, co-star, Sunil. Sunil, great
Hello.
to have you. Great to chat with you again. So those of you out there, those of you who need long-time subscribers, if you're new to the ESM podcast, hopefully you'll have noticed that we have at Xcession had a bit of a glow up, I think is the terminology the kids are using these days. We've had a bit of a brand refresh. So we wanted to talk about that and how that kind of also broadens into the sort of the wider ITSM, ESM market in of itself, and why we've taken now is a good time to rebrand. Sunil, I've got some views on that, about sort of the age of the old brand and so on and so forth, and kind of what that means. And then we were just going to share some viewpoints and talk a little bit about what we're seeing, what we're hearing in the market, and share those with our esteemed listeners, aka you folks. Please like and subscribe. Got to add that as well. I think that's the current nomenclature, I think is the way they say it. And we're always keen on user feedback. If you're finding these things useful, these episodes, if there's things you'd like us to kind of get involved in and dig around in and bring to the podcast space, we'd be happy to do that. Leave us a comment, get in touch. Details below. Sunil, talk us through the rebrand. You were heavily involved in kind of driving that from sort of reviews with designers and so forth. Give us some of the background.
Yes, thank you, Dan. So I have to first of all give credit to two fantastic people who helped us. Frank Stebbing from Frank Brands, who put together the brand design, and also Yvette Asker, who did all of the web build. So thank you both to those. But I mean, what we wanted to do was Xcession had quite a good brand actually. It had quite I think a good reputation in the marketplace. But the brand itself was about 6 or 7 years old, and the website was about 3.5 years old. So it was definitely time for a refresh on both of those. But what really drove that was that we are primarily a people business. Even as a consulting organization, as we start to use more technologies like generative AI to help us deliver services, ultimately it's the knowledge and the effort of the people within the Xcession business that sits behind everything we do, and we wanted that to come across in the website. So there's a page there on meeting the team, right? We're very open about the people in our organization, and on the homepage we have some biogs and some quotes from people, because actually, like I say, we're a people business. So that was really important. The second thing was that as we grow our business and as we grow our customer base, we wanted to shout about it, frankly. We wanted to talk about the successes that we've had, and most importantly, the benefits, the outcomes that customers have accrued from that activity. So, we wanted to shout about that. And then the third thing really was that we wanted to help customers see more easily how we can deliver solutions to them, and also the way in which we deliver solutions to them. So there's two things there. The right pages on the website for the right information. Hopefully they are there. The second thing is really it's about our values as an organization. So we did a lot of work last year in terms of defining those values. Jackie, our HR director, took us as an organization with everyone's involvement through that process. And now those values sit on our website. They're clear for everyone to see. And hopefully it's clear what they mean for our customers and our partners when they interact with us.
One of the great things, and we've had quite a few comments about this, is the About Us page on the website, showcasing the entire team, top to bottom. And I feel that's really great as well, because, anybody who would like to come and work with Xcession, you can really see these are the people that I am going to be working with. There's a lot of talk about technology, there's a lot of talk about tooling and so forth, but at the end of the day, it's people working with people to deliver those great outcomes, right? So having that front and center, so to speak, is really great, really quite powerful, I feel.
Yeah, agreed. And hopefully that'll come across. If anyone's got a view, please let us know.
Yeah. We'd love to hear your feedback. Check out the website. Let us know how many typos you can spot, if there are any. All right, well, that's the website and the refresh kind of touched on. Obviously, we could talk more about that, but let's not right now. We wanted to talk a little bit about the market and share some of the kind of insights and kind of what we're hearing. So you've been talking to a number of technology partners of late around various things. What can you tell us about kind of what you're hearing and what's the word on the street?
Yeah, okay. So I think it's a really interesting time. I mean, in fact, I can't remember a time in the ITSM, ESM world when it wasn't interesting. So I guess that says a lot, maybe. But
no judgment.
Yeah, no judgments, please. But the UK and Ireland market, which is where we predominantly operate, is a very mature space for ITSM. So there's two implications of that. One is that from a customer perspective, it's very unusual to find a greenfield implementation. When people are looking at tooling initiatives for ITSM, it's almost always an investment in a tool that they already have, or it's an investment in a new tool to replace an existing ITSM tool set. So it's pretty mature. And the flip side of that, on the vendor side of that, is that for core ITIL functionality, there is quite a lot of commodity out there. I mean, in reality, there is very little that is different in, small tools, mid-market tools, and those that are gunning for the enterprise as well. When you look at that core ITIL aligned ITSM capability. But what is becoming increasingly apparent to me, and I think to many vendors, is that ESM, so Enterprise Service Management, is not a mature marketplace. In fact, that's really where I think the opportunity now lies for vendors, but also for customers. That's not to say that every customer is incredibly mature from an ITSM perspective. In fact, many of them don't need to be mature from an ITSM perspective. But if organizations look at their business, then there is a great opportunity from an ESM perspective, right, to do shift left, sort of ITSM, ITIL's traditional ballpark of operation, but also do much more work around customer experience. So really driving customer experience initiatives. How do people consume digital services in your organization, right? And how do they consume business services in your organization? And there's a real opportunity for user productivity here. So, typically, right, in ITSM, you would have said, if I can fix an end user's problem really quickly, then that makes them more productive. Well, it does make them more productive, but only by virtue of removing lower levels of productivity. But now what we have with an ESM opportunity is to go to those end users and say, in your day-to-day work, we will enable you using a enterprise-wide case management or workflow management solution. We will enable you to do more. You can do more in HR, in your HR team, than you used to be able to, because you're now using an ESM system. So I think that really presents where customers, vendors, partners like ourselves need to be looking.
No, that's very interesting, isn't it? You're talking about that broadening out, and we're seeing a lot of interest in that specifically because, as you say, there are vendors and tooling that's been in situ, it's been developed, it's established. Now, how can they then maximize that investment, right, and make it more, just make more of it rather across the business? That, let's say they feel they've done as much as they can within the IT space specifically. How can we then leverage it across facilities, finance, HR, other departments? So if that's something you're looking to do, we'd be happy to have a conversation with you around that, and perhaps we can help.
Indeed.
Speaking about the vendors, so those of you who know Xcession, you'll know that we work with a number of leading platforms. And Sunil, again, I know you've had some relatively recent conversations with our technology partners. what can you share about kind of what's happening with those guys and any kind of updates that they might have planned that maybe the wider market doesn't yet know about? What sort of insider trading secrets can you share?
I don't know if I can share that many, because obviously we're under NDA with all of of them. Look, I tell you what I can do though, Dan. I think I can tell you where I think, or where Xcession really thinks that the individual vendors that we work with best play. Now, and look, we can go through them, but this is not to say, right, that they do not have capabilities in lots of different areas. But having spent a lot of time talking to them, I think, and having spent a lot of time talking to customer organizations as well, when we sit in front of a customer and try and help guide their choices, right, we're doing so because we feel that there are certain solutions that are best suited to certain use cases. So I think
we've worked with these solutions for a long time as well, right? So we really know what works best in which area and so on and so forth.
Exactly. So, I mean, our listeners may know, but those who haven't listened before, we deal with really 4 at the moment key technology partners. We deal with Xurrent, we deal with Freshservice in the main, although we do some Freshdesk, but focus on Freshservice. We deal with BMC Helix, and we deal with ServiceNow. So let's maybe run through those, if that's okay, Dan, and we'll just talk about how we see those different technologies fitting different use cases. So let's start with Xurrent. Okay, so Xurrent, in our view, is a fantastic ESM-centric tool set. That's not to say, by the way, that it doesn't have advanced ITSM capability. It does, but what sets Xurrent apart is that it has a very service-orientated architecture. So the underpinning data model is driven by services, and therefore that extends across all business services. And actually, on our website, there are a number of great Xurrent case studies, but one of those, a very large educational establishment, uses Xurrent across, I think it's 14 different domains. They have library services on it, they have student services running on it, they're running IT on it, they have HR on it, facilities, finance, etc. So that ESM centricity for Xurrent, right, that service-orientated architecture means that if you're looking at as an organization an ESM strategy, definitely a tool set to look at. And then there's a couple of other bits that I think are really interesting with Xurrent that set them apart a little bit. One is that it is incredibly fast for a SaaS application, right? And so there is no downtime, no sitting around watching the hourglass do its thing. And then the second thing is it's still quite an early stage business. So as a customer, if you make an investment in Xurrent, then actually you have an opportunity to guide the roadmap there, which is quite an interesting position and not necessarily something you see very much in the other more established vendors. So Xurrent has that, in our view, that great differentiator. If we look at Freshservice, I mean, what's unique, I think, about Freshservice is that actually because of the way it's built, the simplicity associated with its configuration, but yet still the complexity of its technical capabilities, that actually it's as well suited to a small, 5-user implementation as it is to 1,000-seat implementation. It can actually address a huge range of complex through to simple ITSM use cases, mature, I should say, really through to simple. One of the other things that they've done, which is really smart, right, is that they've acquired Device42 recently. So there was definitely a weakness there in terms of automated discovery and CMDB capability. They have bridged that gap. There is, I'm told, an integration that is forthcoming, right? So, that actually takes them, I think, quite a long way forward into the small enterprise or enterprise market there. And brings them much closer to businesses that are critically reliant on their digital infrastructure to deliver services. I mean, Dan, through your hard work, right, we recently did a freedom of information request looking at the total cost of ownership, and Freshservice scored very well, right, in that freedom of information data set. In other words, that the human cost of running a Freshservice instance as compared to some other vendors is quite low. So actually, from a TCO perspective, it offers quite a lot there.
It offers a lot of advantage there, absolutely.
I do think that if you are really a true enterprise, then you should consider Freshservice, but you might look at other alternatives there. But really, anything, as I said, from the small through to the kind of small enterprise or mid-sized enterprise, right? It's a very, very powerful tool. So lots of orchestration and automation built into it as well. So really good one to look at. I met with BMC very recently. Okay, we're hoping to get BMC onto the podcast. They haven't been that frequent visitors, but hopefully they will be a bit more.
They'll be back. They'll be back.
They'll be back, exactly. I mean, for anyone that doesn't know, BMC had a workload automation product, Control M. They also had mainframe products as well on the mainframe side of the business, as well as BMC Helix and their AI Ops offering. So that business has recently split. You have Helix now, which is the ITSM and ITOM tool sets, and then the workload automation and mainframe business has moved away. So I think it will be really interesting in the marketplace to see how BMC take advantage of this newfound, I guess, ability to control their own destiny. But what BMC is brilliant at is fulfilling high maturity ITSM and ITOM use cases. So it's a toolbox approach, a bit like ServiceNow, right? What that means to customers is that, if you can dream it, you can build it. It has arguably one of the best, maybe the best discovery solutions out there, BMC Discovery. It's certainly one of the longest standing solutions in the marketplace. And it has an extremely powerful AI Ops solution, used to be called TrueSight. And each of these three products, right, is standalone market leader in their own capacity. If you bring those three things together for a high maturity organization or an organization that is mid maturity but wants to go to a high maturity solution, right, then BMC is excellent. Okay, there is enterprise service management capability in there. They have a product called Business Workflows. It's probably not as well developed as ServiceNow is in terms of the number of SKUs you can buy that are out of the box, I guess, for different business use cases. But actually, if you're starting from IT, then you can develop that yourselves. And I think you see BMC in as I said, organizations with high maturity around ITSM, ITOM, but also in places like telcos and MSPs, because they also offer concurrent licensing. And concurrent licensing can certainly save you a lot of money if you are, the right kind of organization. And then the final one is ServiceNow, and then I will be quiet for a bit. But ServiceNow, obviously market leader, right? And the real thing, as I think everyone knows with ServiceNow, right, is if you have the budget and you have the investment portfolio to invest in ServiceNow, then there are some huge benefits you can accrue, right? Single data platform, right, or single platform, I should say, single data model, right, that underpins all of the services. That gives you a huge opportunity for reporting and analytics, right? It also gives you a huge opportunity for AI, whether that's agents or whether that is a virtual agent, so surfacing knowledge articles, for example, case summarization, automated routing, etc. Right, that's incredibly powerful on that single data platform. And then the agentic side of things, right, being able to actually take, agents that enact, right, rather than just engage. That is, a credible opportunity that you have there. there are more SKUs than you can shake a stick at, right, with ServiceNow. So that can be a bit complex in terms of, navigating that model. But if you are strategic, you have an investment envelope that works, you have ideally a desire to move towards a center of excellence for ServiceNow or for your enterprise applications, you have a long-term vision, it's an incredible tool set. So I guess that's not in short, in long, right, how we see the market and why we've picked these different tools.
Yeah, I think there's amazing coverage there, right? And we're confident, I think it's fair to say, that no matter what challenge you have as a client, from let's say you want to move to a different platform, or you're looking at platforms for the first time and you need some guidance as to, right, well, this is what we'd like to do. Can you help us understand which of the many, many tools out there would perhaps be most appropriate for us to achieve these outcomes? Again, just to reference the freedom of information research we've done, there's over 60, I'm sure there's over 100, but there's over 60 represented in terms of these kinds of technologies out there. So highly commoditized market space. But we feel, with the breadth of experience within the team at Xcession, there's 100% concrete reasons why we've settled on these. ServiceNow, for the reasons mentioned, is the market leader. That's evidenced lots of research and so on, and the amount of development, ongoing development, R&D that they put into that.
Yes,
AI is a hot topic at this point in time. It's immense, right? So you could be very confident there, but sort of, let's say, the other side to that is that there's that investment consideration to make, right? So if you're out there and you're listening and you think, actually, it'd be good to chat to the guys at Xcession because I do need a bit of a steer on what's out there. We do look at other tools as well. However, these are the ones that we've chosen to partner directly with at this point in time. Happy to have a chat with you and, give you some pointers. It could well be that there's a different tool out there and we can put you in that direction, for the specific use case, if it's something slightly outside of, let's say, typical.
Couple of things, Dan, before we shoot off. Can I just add?
Okay, we'll keep this one concise, right?
Sorry, say again?
We'll keep this episode concise, right?
Absolutely, yeah. So what I will just add to what you have just said, which is that again, I think the key thing that Xcession does, right, is take those tools and deliver operational outcomes for customers. So if you've got questions around those outcomes, irrespective of whether you're using these tools or not, right, then feel free to come and have a conversation with us. We'd love to help. What we have coming up on the podcast is good. So we will have a review of ServiceNow Knowledge. So that is happening the week that this podcast will be released. Okay, so when you're listening to this, some of us will be at Knowledge. But then we'll do a review of ServiceNow Knowledge the week following. So very much looking forward to that. We have some customers lined up to come on the podcast. I think I'm not going to tell you who they are. Perhaps we shouldn't mention them in case that needs to be rearranged or not. But a couple of customers who will come on and talk about their journey because they have been through some transformation, different forms of transformation, but through some transformation. So that, I think, will be really interesting, won't it?
Yeah, we've got some very hot, I'm going to call them hot episodes lined up. Sunil, you've neglected to say that you are actually going to be boots on the ground in Vegas.
I did neglect.
If you are listening to this and you're going to be there, amongst the tens of thousands of people, be sure to seek Sunil out.
You'll see us because it's myself and Mark, the CEO, who's been on the podcast, but you'll see us because we will be wearing our Xcession branded merchandise.
Yeah, the merch coming soon. We'll have the store set up where you'll be able to buy your own Xcession merch. No, well, maybe we will see. So I think that about wraps it up for this one. Hope that our listeners found this insightful, useful. As before, if there's anything you'd like Sunil and I to kind of go away and find out more about, or you'd like to come and join us on the podcast and share your views and experience and knowledge around all things IT and enterprise service management, we'd be delighted to have that conversation with you. Till the next episode, thank you very much for listening, and see you soon.
Bye-bye.